Alrighty, welcome to the Lockdown Podcast. I am going solo today because that's just kind of how it happens. So it's all good. The ship must keep moving. So let's get into it right now. So we had Raw kickoff obviously this past week with Cody doing what Cody does and basically, talking up his match, I guess you could say. But then all of a sudden we get the emergence of one Stephanie McMahon, basically telling him that he can't beat Randy Orton. And I don't think this was for Randy Orton's benefit. I think this was just a senseless plug of maybe mentioning, one Vince McMahon's name or dropping hints maybe he's coming back. Because really there's nothing with Stephanie being involved that doesn't have Triple H with her that really makes much sense. And so the segment was really kind of unnecessary. No one cared about it. I love Stephanie McMahon, but I didn't think we needed this little segment. So we had our first match of the night, which was a street fight between the Usos and the Vision, Logan Paul and Austin Theory. And I have to say, it was a little bit weird, a little bit wishy-washy. But obviously you had some outside interference, which obviously it's a street fight, so it's sadly kind of allowed. And so we ended up seeing the Vision dethrone the Usos, winning the tag team championships, which ended up leading us into this weird match for WrestleMania with the Vision and IShowSpeed versus the Usos and LA Knight, which I think is absolutely stupid and nonsensical. I'm all for moderately seeing celebrities in WWE, but I feel like because it's WrestleMania, they want to just absolutely flood, us with celebrities, whether it's Jelly Roll, IShowSpeed, Little Yachty, Sexy Red on NXT. I mean, it's a bit much because it doesn't have any basis or any reason for them to be there. But again, this is WWE's shoddy attempt to bring eyes to the product just because you bring in these celebrities. But I just not into it. I think it was cool, 25, 30 years ago when you brought celebrities in because it was more authentic. And now it's just so social media driven that, these celebrities are basically just coming in for S&Gs, really just because they can. Um, but yeah, again, I'm not for it. Now, our next debacle we had wasn't obviously a match, but so basically had Liv Morgan, coming out doing what Liv Morgan does and chirping up the match. And then obviously you get the emergence of Stephanie Vaquer that's basically not there to talk. And so obviously a brawl ensues. And then we get the return of one Roxanne Perez, which, I mean, cool. I it's kind of becoming mundane, Raw and SmackDowns with very unpopular, content, matches, stories. It's getting very bland. And speaking of bland, so we had the Irresistible Forces, Nia Jackson, Lash Legend, facing off against Lara Valkyria and Bayley, and it ends how you know it's going to end because they've been slowly building this fatal four-way between the Bellas, Lyra Bayley, Charlotte, and Alexa versus Nia and Lash. I mean, it's written in the stars. It's not that hard to predict, and yeah, I mean, WWE is pretty easy to predict. Just saying. But yeah, so I mean, WWE's been basically had this in the gun the whole time, and we knew it was going to happen at WrestleMania. It's too predictable, and honestly, I don't care for this match, and not because I don't like the competitors in the match. It's just it's very thrown together, um, much like most of the WrestleMania matches, with the exception of the men's and women's championships on each brand. Other than that, everything has been really a mundane build. Yeah, so I just again, this WrestleMania season we're in, and honestly, probably the last, we'll be gentle, let's say the last like 10 WrestleManias have just not had the kind of build that you would have seen in the past, in obviously different generations and different times. But we don't, and I agree with a lot of people that I've heard say this same sentiment, that it doesn't feel like WrestleMania season, right? I mean, and we're 13 days away. I mean, this is happening, not this weekend, but the following, and it doesn't feel that. We don't have any. We haven't had any like renderings of maybe what the stage is going to look like, or they're going to run it back with the same thing because they're in the same city back to back, which is something they've rarely ever done. But much like every other sporting event, Vegas runs sports, and that's why they're running it back. I guess because they're money hungry, as if they're not robbing the fans enough with ticket prices, VIP ticket prices. I mean, just nosebleed section tickets are ridiculous. I just, and yet you have sponsors for days, which was something Vince McMahon stood by never doing. And so you have all this sponsorship money coming in. Why the fuck can't you make the ticket prices feasible? You have money revenue coming in. It's not like you don't have literally 50 sponsors a night. They changed the ring. They changed the ring apron. Here comes more. Here comes more things. You see Michael Cole reference a sponsor. You see the boards around the ring advertising. I mean, now I think it's the only time I've seen it on ring attire, but was with Dominic, had the dude wipes thing on his merch. And it's like, you guys have so much revenue coming in from sponsorships. I don't know why you say you're broke. I don't get it. Now, the next stuff we had to deal with is we had the emergence of Paul Heyman, the Advocate, coming out with Brock Lesnar. And I tell you, this is one of the actual genuine builds to a fight I'm actually going to enjoy. And I've quietly said this to whoever will listen, is that this match will not be long, but I guarantee it'll overshadow a championship match. And I'm leaving that interpretation of championship match to all the titles, because I think when some of these these YouTubers and podcasters as well, they kind of break down their thoughts of WrestleMania and the card and the matches, plenty of websites, CBS, ESPN, like a lot of them do reviews and they grade these matches. I think this match is going to be an A, period. But like, I love it, or I love it and I hate it that Adam Pearce came out and then he got pushed aside, and then here comes Triple H, and this is the premise of this match. This is the like craziness of this matchup, is that they really want to not let these guys fight till WrestleMania. And this match is going to be what Jim Ross used to say is a slobber knocker. So I absolutely look forward to this match. I hope it is put in a position, not in the middle of the show. I want this shit to open the show. And yes, some people might disagree with the fact that I think this caliber of match should open the show, but why not? Right? If you have an A+ match out the gate, it sets the bar for the remainder of the show for that evening. Whether it's Friday or Saturday, or whether it's Saturday or Sunday, I want a tone-setting match. I want people to live up to the hype of the first match, and I want it to raise ships, right? A rising tide lifts all ships, and so I want this to honestly kick it off. But again, that's just me. My co-parts obviously, disagree with me, but no one's here to disagree with me right now. So, no, so we finally get a Intercontinental Championship match between Penta, the champion, and Kofi Kingston. And this is the shit that makes absolutely fucking no sense in WWE. Okay, so Penta defeats Kofi, right? And then whatever her freaking name is comes out, does a slight interview with Penta, and he's like, yeah, we're doing a ladder match at WrestleMania. And as opposed to doing qualifying matches, the last, week into WrestleMania, or because we have, so it's technically 2 weeks. So we have 2 weeks that we could have done qualifier matches for Penta's Intercontinental Championship match, but they did them already. Like, how stupid is that we don't get to see the qualifying matches for a match at WrestleMania? Make that make sense. Like, in the realest form. How are you going to just announce that you're going to do something, and then WWE has already did qualifying matches? Like, creative, you need to get your head out your booty cheeks, okay? Like, I don't know what you're doing, but, like, that was a terrible move. Like, now if Penta said something last week or something about, about wanting to have a ladder match, and then they have these qualifiers on main event, then it would kind of at least make a little more sense. But we didn't see anything talked about by Penta about a ladder match until he had the interview after the match. And then the qualifiers were already done. Like, it just doesn't make any sense, WWE. Get your heads out your ass. Now, so we finally get Adam Pearce basically coming out and, telling, Paul Heyman that Seth Rollins is medically cleared. And this is just a pivot. The only reason why Gunther came out and choked out Seth, he was a filler. As much as we love Gunther and we want him to have a WrestleMania match because he's the Ring General and he's Gunther and he's just that guy, and they didn't have anything for him. But because we're not going to get Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, or even Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed, like, we are stuck with Gunther. And I know there's a slight bit of history with these guys, but this is WWE's just rushing a match. And it doesn't make any sense. This match is going to be a B-, maybe C+ match. It's not going to do anything. It's not pushing any storyline. It's not pushing any agenda. It's not leading us into something different. It is literally just thrown together. Much like Raquel Rodriguez versus Io Sky. There's nothing there. I don't have anything to talk about because there's really nothing there. It is nothing but filler. Now, we continue to get the build for CM Punk and Roman Reigns. And, I love the brutality of it. I think that they have built this match up very, very well. I think that it became just exchanges of words and just comebacks and everything like that, and personal stabs. But but obviously, now they're fighting and they're putting each other through tables, and I mean just the list. And so like this match is living up to the hype, 100%. And honestly, I hate to bust people's bubbles, but a lot of people, I've seen online and different posts have posted about who is the best Samoan of all time. And I know like people are going to say The Rock, right? Because he's The Rock and he's whatever. But The Rock, I mean, he got to where he was, because of his family. Obviously, Roman pretty similar. But I honestly think Roman's the best Samoan. And you can criticize, you can absolutely disagree, you can whatever you want. But honestly, Roman Reigns has probably main evented more WrestleManias than The Rock's probably been in. Like, let that sink in. Like, Roman has headlined at least probably the last 5 or 6, not even including any other one-offs. So I without hesitation, Roman Reigns is the greatest Samoan wrestler, period. Now, are there some candidates in the works? Yes. But I really just think Roman's that guy. And I think, his matches, his dominance, yes, he did the whole defend it once in a great while type of stuff, and he didn't defend it as many times as CM Punk, but I he's the guy. He's the one. And so I don't care that CM Punk defended his title more than Roman did. Roman did it on the biggest stages. Because just because you defended it doesn't mean it was like some glorious defense. It doesn't mean that was somehow bigger than anything else when out of probably those 100 sometimes he defended it was probably 5 or 10 on probably TV, maybe 20. So I just had to say my piece. Now, Randy Orton has been obviously having these phone call exchanges for the last couple weeks, and everybody was pondering, whether it was his dad or another family member or any list of anybody. But instead, so we see Cody comes out, obviously, and so Randy and him kind of have a spat. And we get the emergence of Pat McAfee. And I could not believe this was the build. This was the end of that particular debacle, and that answered the questions of who was on the phone. Now, the things that Pat McAfee said were very valid. Very valid. He basically shot from the hip, about the WWE issues and, explaining to the people that, you have all this going on and you're talking about the problems you have, but you have Randy Orton, who's the longest tenured wrestler right now, short of R-Truth. And so you have the caliber of Randy Orton, and you really haven't utilized it very well, was the premise of what Pat McAfee said. Now, I can't, I wish it was somebody else, anybody else, because it's like, let's put sunglasses on Pat McAfee and make him a heel. Man, they could have honestly done better. They could have brought back anybody. Obviously, they can't bring back Ted DiBiase Jr. because he's in jail. But like, they could have done a multitude of other people. But yeah, so that's definitely an interesting situation in how did they settle on Pat McAfee is really the looming question. So now we got the first match of the night, which was Rhea versus Michin. Obviously, with the whole Michin and BFAB joining Jade Cargill to be her goon squads. This is basically the Secret Hervis 2.0. Just different outfits. But yeah, so obviously Rhea does, beat Michin, obviously, and after the match, obviously, again, the most cliche thing happened, obviously, like, oh, they're attacking Rhea Ripley. Wow, go freaking figure. But it was cool to see the emergence of one Io Sky, and so obviously she thwarted off them. So it's nice to see Io Sky again with Rhea Ripley, obviously them being tag team partners in the past and being good friends in general. So it was definitely cool to have Io have her back. Now, we've been dealing with this whole MFTs and the Wyatt 6 stuff for what feels like months and months and months and months. All basically fiddling over the lamp of Bray Wyatt. And you finally see Tama Tonga literally grab the lamp, give it back to Uncle Howdy to wash his hands of the mess, because this whole bit they've been doing back and forth is pointless. It is useless. It is unentertaining. I don't care. Like this is lower than mid card level stories. Oh, MFTs versus the Wyatt 6, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then then they lose the belts conveniently. Thank God. And then now we're still running this whole thing, and it's absolutely boring. Boring. Now, speaking of boring, so we get subjected to dealing with another rapper celebrity, and we get Lil Yachty obviously coming out with Trick Williams and doing as what they do, and I'm so over celebrities coming into WWE. One, because they do it in like boatloads for certain situations. Like when they started Raw on Netflix, what did they do? Stacked it ringside. Season 2 of Netflix or Raw on Netflix, they stacked it. And we're leading into WrestleMania, and they're stacking it. And it's like the celebrities now don't have the impact that the celebrities had back in the 90s. It was way different. It was way more surprising. And just an overall better product. But now it's just like anybody with a Spotify following can basically just show up and get some kind of involvement. And I'm just honestly kind of bored with it. And I think I'm not alone. It's like we got Jelly Roll, we got a Lil Yachty, and we've had a smothering of others. And it's just like, at what point in time do we just not? And I show speed. Sorry, I had to think about that in my brain for a hot sec. But so it's goofy. And it doesn't do anything for the fan base. Oh, look, cool, a celebrity with money can go be on the show. Don't care. Don't care one bit. And obviously this ends up, this whole confrontation, obviously Sami Zayn ends up out there followed by Carmelo Hayes, obviously, trying to jockey for a match at WrestleMania. Sami Zayn finally breaks down and basically offers him a match. And if he wins, then he's in the match at WrestleMania. Obviously, that didn't go his way. Go figure. But the next match we had Aleister Black versus Matt Cardona. Again, filler. No stories. Filler. Although at least Aleister Black actually has matches, unlike when they did the same gimmick with Charlotte and Cross. At least Aleister Black has matches. They would just piss away talent in the back, and it was pretty awful. And yet the fans were eating everything up, and yet somehow they get released. And now we're basically getting Karrion Kross and Scarlett 2.0 between Aleister Black and Zelina Vega. One, because Zelina Vega can't wrestle for shit. Sorry to hurt your feelings or bust your freaking bubble, but she's a hazard. How many times are wrestlers going to potentially get injured because of her not so good in the ring skill set? But I digress. So we get a match again, filler. We get Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair versus Bayley and Lyra. Obviously, we got what obviously we knew we were going to get between this whole thing, because obviously we're building toward the match for WrestleMania. You know, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair do get the win, but, you know, not really too entertaining. Now, if you want to talk about entertaining, you got to talk about Danhausen. And it's great TV. You know, they didn't introduce him the best, but he's been doing some of the best backstage work of really anybody. And so we have the Damian Priest R-Truth match versus the Miz and Kit Wilson. And weirdly enough, obviously R-Truth and Priest get the win due to the ref being, "You are cursed." And so, you know, his arm gets cursed. And so he can't make a 3 count, which was hilarious. And I think Danhausen is going to be the new comic relief that the R-Truth is, and always has been. And it's the little things, right? It's the little things in WWE that make it just a smidge bit better. But yeah, like I said, so we get the Sami Zayn Carmelo Hayes match. Obviously, you know, with a little bit of outside interference. Obviously, Sami does win, but obviously, you know, Trick Williams gets the last laugh. And so, being that we are 2 weeks away, I don't think there's any new matches. I think we're at 13 as it speaks right now. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think we're at 13. So I mean, but we also don't have anything for Julia's United States Championship Gold. Got no plans for that, as they really haven't had with that anyways. And then we also don't have anything for Damian Priest and R-Truth in regards to WrestleMania. Now, the chatter is somehow we're going to get another match, you know, as they say. Now, I'm fine with 13, but, you know, I think, I really don't think that we need more. But, I mean, I don't think it's wise that we have champions that are in a match but not defending their titles, and that being the Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and I Show Speed versus the Usos and LA Knight. I think that should have just been a championship match. But like, doesn't belong on the WrestleMania card. I can tell you that much. At all. I mean, and you have you have Lash Legend and Nia Jax versus, Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, Bayley, Lyra, and the Bella Twins. That's again blah blah blah. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, like, the card's not terrible. Have we had better? You better believe we have. So, I think we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. We're T minus 2 weeks. So hopefully next week I will have my panel to break down the card in its entirety, hoping that we have a final match card for WrestleMania. So yeah, we will wait and see. And yeah, so that's all we can do. And let's see what, Raw comes up with. Let's see what SmackDown comes up with. And then obviously, then we'll be on the week to WrestleMania. So this is the Lockdown Podcast.